Texans sign controversial corner. Internet goes nuts. Some stuff you may not know about him. I've talked to some people, as well as an interesting theory about the best case scenario that could still result in something pretty bad when it comes to Nick Caley. Let's go inside the locker room.
Hey, locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top two and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways.
All right, so an interesting day for the Texans. They make a signing. We knew that they perhaps needed some corner depth, and they got it in the form of a player that I don't know that they would have entertained in the past. It is the locker room, number one source for Texans digital content. I am Landry Locker. We'll talk about the Damon Arnette signing, the 2020 draft pick, all the crazy irony that comes with this selection, as well as an interesting theory about Nick Caley. And we think Nick is the most important guy, right?
Nick.
He is the X factor of all X factors when the Texans start things and kick things off. But good might come with bad. That's kind of the life that the Texans have chosen. We'll get into that as well. But let's talk about Damon Arnette and the Texans' decision to sign the former first-round pick. Now, a lot of controversy around Damon Arnette. There was multiple arrests. He was released from the Raiders in 2021 after a video emerged of him basically threatening to kill someone. Not basically, he did. And the video was very clear. He was showing what he was packing. And he was packing a hell of a lot. He was talking about 5 minutes, and he was saying, I'll kill you. And the Raiders ended up getting rid of Damon Arnette and releasing him as a result of the video, which at the time it looked really, really bad. I do think there is perhaps some, I don't know if gray area is the right way to say it, but there is a little bit more depth to what went down and how this came about that we'll get into. And I'll first, and we'll dive right into this. I'll first say I've talked to someone who's actually talked to Damon Arnette recently, who's actually friends with his uncle, Jean-Jacques Taylor. If you ever listen to this stream, you hear me say sports are fluid. And that is a result of not just one of my mentors, but one of my really good friends in Jean-Jacques Taylor. The sports are fluid quote came from him. And he actually sat down with Damon Arnette a few months ago, 6 months ago, and kind of talked to him about where he is right now, where his mindset was, and why he deserved a second chance and what he wanted to do in football. And this whole thing can be connected. And I know Texans fans hate the Cowboys, but I will say coming up that Damon Arnette's his second chance can be connected to a Dallas Cowboy legend. And I'll tell you why in a second. It can be connected to that conversation, and it can be something that maybe kind of a peace treaty for people who may hate Dallas folk. But Damon Arnette has been signed. And I got to say, I thought the most interesting thing that happened today was when John McClain reacted to this signing. And I thought the reaction that John McClain got when he said what he said, I'll tell you what I thought. I'll show you first, and I'll let you make up your own mind. But this is what John McClain, who is the face of Houston media when it comes to football, he's always remained professional when it comes to covering this team. Here was what John McClain tweeted out. And let's just look at what some people said to John McClain when John McClain reacted to Damon Arnette being signed. Here was John McClain's tweet. He said the following, quote, "I can't believe the Texans have lowered their standards like this. Bob McNair would be appalled." And then he posted the link on ESPN. John McClain's been the king of the retweet. If you got to turn retweets off if you follow John McClain, or else your timeline is just going to be flooded with John McClain retweets. That's my guy. I'm actually going to have lunch with John McClain on Friday. I've had lunch with John McClain probably 5 times the last 3 months. And any of y'all who've ever listened to me and John McClain talk, y'all know I argue with his ass 100 times worse than anyone can with him on the internet. But these were some of the reactions to what John McClain said on Twitter. Christian said Bob McNair would be appalled that you're still employed. I don't know about all that. Cabos Q said STFU, man, nobody cares about your input. Okay. That's a little bit crazy. Hunter said, John, he served his punishment and proved himself in the UFL. What more did you want from him? Clayton Elkins said, sarcasm. Yeah, I get the whole model citizen model that Bob McNair was big on, but people deserve second chances in life. Let's face it, winning wasn't exactly Bob McNair's specialty. I agree with that one big time. Then we got the usual Twitter ad. Allentown Standard says, to be fair, Bob McNair was also appalled that a black man becoming president, going way back. Nathan says, I thought you retired years ago. Apparently you can't tweet when you're retired. The Rhino says, bad take this time, brother. Sometimes people should get a chance at redemption. My question for the Rhino and the people that are getting mad at McClain is, and we'll scroll back up. Here's what he said. I can't believe the Texans have lowered their standards like this. Bob McNair would be appalled. That's his take. What did he say here? And we'll continue on the comments. But what did he say right here that wasn't true that 99% of the people haven't said? Like when they worked out Damon Arnette, didn't we say, well, are the Texans going to be willing to roll the dice like this? We've never seen the Texans willing to roll the dice. We hear DeMeco Ryans talk about we want to sign great people. And I'm not saying that Damon Arnette is not a great person. I'm just saying that that's what we all said. They've obviously lowered their standards or what they're willing to roll the dice on, which has been something that I've been talking about. If you've listened to me for a long time, I've wanted them to do that for a long time, especially if you're going to have a good culture. Because I think if you're going to have a good culture, then you should have open-minded acquisitions. Like if you have all these guys that the right kind of guys and they're leaders, then you should be willing to bring in guys with potential character. So I've been talking about this for a long time. But as far as what John McClain said here, he literally said, I can't believe the Texans have lowered their standard like this. Bob McNair would be appalled. And I think we all agree that Bob McNair would not have rolled the dice on this, regardless of how extreme your opinion is or isn't. Mason says McClain's dramatic. He can definitely be dramatic, especially when the Astros play. Making it seem like we traded Stingley and our entire secondary to the Roughnecks for him. Gino, yeah, that's dramatic. I have to believe DeMeco had a frank talk with this guy. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I'm sure they know he knows the thing. The choir boy image Bob wanted has done absolutely nothing for this franchise. 100% agree with that. All this for a CB3. Come on, John, not that serious. It's not that big at all. Nothing wrong with given the guy a second chance. Don't disagree with that. You should have done what he didn't and stayed retired. How is he not retired if he's tweeting? I don't get that. That's weird. Robert, whatever your name is. Joseph says, lay off the honey buns, pancakes. Don't you cover the Titans anyway? Okay, so he's fat. Okay, he knows he's fat too. Cam says he's lame. Stop covering our team. Okay. Wow, he's going to be great in the locker room. What a better way to catch you some comments. Good bait. He doesn't give a damn about catching comments. Vocalist Mike, too. That's stupid as hell. John McClain didn't care about catching comments. Dude's 5th on the chart. It's called a second chance when you change your ways. Fact. Do relax. Don't you report for the Titans. He is pretty friendly with the Titans. I've had arguments with him about that. Another reason why we never won a Super Bowl with him, sign good players to win. I would agree with that. Do you believe in second chances, John? I think he does. The guy who literally said you can't let the inmates run the prison, which was a misquote and directly from a Clinton appointee. Can you just retire? He can still tweet when he retires, LS. Ever heard of depth, John? They definitely need that at corner. This guy's the biggest cornball on Twitter. I'll move down from him. F it. People can change. Better themselves, grow up. Broomer take. I would agree. I don't even know what the take is. And then we just have a bunch of stuff here with John. But let's just go back to what McClain said. And we've said this too. And this is a guy who knew Bob McNair better than me, you, probably a lot of Bob McNair's family members. The Texans have lowered their standards. Bob McNair would be appalled. Very true. It's a fact. You can't really, I mean, if you want to dispute that, you can. But what John says is very, very true. They've definitely lowered it. And the culture, at least, is willing to take on guys that maybe they would not have with the Bob McNair Texans. We know that. And I don't know why John McClain got heat on that. And I don't know why guys are calling him fat and stuff. Like you're calling someone a fat ass from like a logo, like an anonymous name. I don't get it. Yeah, he knows he's a fat ass. Trust me. I eat with him. I'm eating with him Friday. He knows he's a fat ass. He's going to order an extra egg roll. So like, I don't think he's gonna disagree with that. So yeah, but nothing he said is false.
5 minutes away.
And we'll get to this Damon Arnette video in a second, because I do want to add some context to that, because I've always, even when I was on the air at the flagship, I've always kind of defended the biggest moment and the most polarizing moment, which I think led to the downward spiral. It might have been a blessing from God, though, because he wasn't living the way that he said that he wanted to live. But the Damon Arnette video, which we'll get to in a second. But nothing that John McClain said was crazy. The Texans are obviously more open to signing guys with character concerns, and they wouldn't have done this during Bob McNair's time. The guy covered the Texans the entire time. What is controversial about that? Furthermore, I don't know that I want to carry the water for Arnette yet. I know I've gotten a good word put in for me because of my boy Jacques. I'm not going to carry the water for Damon Arnette yet. I'm glad that he gets another chance, but I'm not going to carry the water. That's what he said. Bullboy says, what did we do in Bob McNair's time? Mediocre as fuck. What do you mean? We all know that. He's not sitting there. I mean, he's saying that he can't believe it. He can't believe it. It's surprising. If I would have told you that the Texans 6 months ago were going to sign, if I asked you 6 months ago, let's say we're sitting wherever your restaurant is, might be fucking McDonald's in Playland. I don't know. But let's say that we're adults and we're sitting at a bar and we're sitting there and we're having some beers or whatever the hell you want to drink. And I'm sitting there and I'm saying, man, Damon Arnette is in the UFL. He's playing ball. You remember him for flashing the guns on social media. He had a few arrests after that. You think the Texans would sign him? Would you say absolutely? Hell no, you would not. We're all surprised by this. So that's the whole point John McClain's trying to make. We don't have to pounce on the old man on Twitter. We ain't got to pounce on the old man on Twitter. Just listen, Bullboy. Don't sit there and type. You're acting like the people with McClain. Just sit there and listen. You don't need to talk. You're spamming the chat at this point. We're saying what Bob McNair, what his philosophy was, and the fact it's changed. That's what it is. I'm gonna put you in timeout, man. You're spamming the chat, brother. You're not making any sense. We know that the Texans have been mediocre. These aren't Bob McNair's Texans. That's the main point that John McClain made. So that's where it is with that. Now, what I really want to touch on is the main event that led to Damon Arnette getting kicked out of the league. And this one's interesting because I've always actually kind of sided with him on this one. Now, obviously he was living a little bit faster than he probably should, just the fact that this went down. But when you give full context to what actually happened, and this is the only chat where that will happen. Bradley's laughing about the timeout. Bullboy needs to chill. I don't know what he's talking about. They're sitting there yapping for no reason. Yeah, we know Bob McNair. We know the Texans have been mediocre. I say that all the time. We know that. We know Bob McNair probably didn't handle things perfect. We know that all the time. The new regime, though, they don't necessarily function like Bob McNair, which is a good thing. Cal and Hannah, they're not trying to carry on that legacy. This is a DeMeco and this is a Caserio thing. So we all know that. But I want to focus on this Arnette video, and I'm gonna give a little snippet of it because this is what was shown. But this will be the best context you get. And I always defended him on this, and there were a few arrests after this, and I think stuff just kind of spiraled. But this was clearly his low point, and I think the context is kind of important. And he hasn't even said this himself. He does have another bit of context when it comes to this video, but this is all me. I haven't heard this anywhere else, but I'm going to give some context to this whole video and everything that went down with Arnette afterwards, which might have been a blessing in disguise when it comes to Arnette. So this is a little snippet from the event that set stuff off with Damon Arnette. And this went viral on social media. He was released very shortly after this. I'm not going to play all of it, but this was the video where Damon Arnette ended up getting released. And we have it edited. Not suitable for work, but we have it edited.
5 minutes away. Pull up, lame ass. I swear to God, I will kill you. On everything I love, I will kill you. You talking crazy. Talking about that 5 minutes away. Bro. The
He's got three.
Like, I really did. I really did you, man. I will really.
Yeah, that's three right there. That's three big barrels and one one handheld right there. And you hear him say 5 minutes away. And that was all we saw when the video got dropped. And he was released a short time after that by the Raiders. I'll let him speak first. This is from the Jean-Jacques Taylor interview. This is Damon Arnette talking with my boy Jean-Jacques, my guy. By the way, I hate to remix Bad Boys. My man looks 40 now. I know Reggie looked 30. This dude looks 40. He looks old as hell now, Damon Arnette. But here was Damon Arnette talking about that incident and how the whole thing went down when he was a Raider. This is on with Jean-Jacques Taylor.
Practice Monday. They called me, and I was like, Coach. And I was like, hold on, wait. Like, because they was just telling, I was hurt. I had my groin. I just had groin surgery. I just tore both my groins. But I'm about to come back. I had a rough rookie year behind closed doors. I did a lot of like self-work on myself that first off season. And I'm in good spirits. You know what I'm saying? That video was the year before, like in like December or so, you know. They posted it in October of the following year.
Wow.
So I'm telling Coach Mayock, like, I'm still the same person. You said you saw in all this progress. I said I was doing good. This video's old. This isn't.
So that's kind of interesting. And obviously he was still a little wild, and he'll admit that himself. But so the video was from December, and it was posted in early November, late October. And this was after he was injured. He was trying to come back. So it's not like this video was posted the week of. It happened 10 months before it was actually posted. There's a little bit more to it than that as well. But here's some more from Damon Arnette.
And I would never do that yesterday. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I would never do that tomorrow, or that wasn't me. And he was just like, damn it. Like, he didn't know what to say because it looked terrible, but that was an old video and I didn't post it. You know, he said, we'll deal with this when we get back. Monday came around, I get up, do normal routine, you know, because I know what's going on. So I know. So I'm not trying to just look around the corners. I go take my COVID test. I'm talking to everybody, see if anybody knows something. Everybody treating me normal. I'm like, okay. But as soon as I walk out, I'm thinking I'm about to go to the locker room. It's like right now, everybody looked at me though in the face and everybody was just sick. You know, me and Mayock cried.
Is that right?
Yeah, it wasn't a normal goodbye. Like, this was like, it wasn't normal. The mood in the building was very heartbreaking. And like, what made it worse was just like the looks on everybody's faces, like when I was leaving. Like, I thought I got on people's nerves a lot.
All right, there you go. So it was a little bit later on. Not condoning it at all when it comes to that manner. I did find, and this is where when I was on the air, I actually kind of defended him. And I think you can kind of connect this with the way that people talk about John McClain. I've been talked to crazy before on the internet as well. And it's always fun. For me, it's usually boomers. It's usually boomers who think that they can talk to me a certain way. And then when we meet in person, they're extra nice. And it's not like a flex off or anything. That they're extra nice. I was with Cody Stoots at Wendy's. It was between Texans practice and the media availability. Some dude came up to me, talked about how much he liked our channels, all this, blah, blah, blah. Said that he was on Twitter. I looked him up on Twitter. He used to talk bad about my wife and daughter. I talk all kinds of hot crap. And he was very nice to me. Like, I looked up, said, oh, what's your name on Twitter? Looked it up. I was like, damn, you're pretty intense. Wasn't a big deal. But that's just kind of how people talk online. And I think that if you read the actual entire DM, and I know y'all haven't done this, and I don't expect you to, but I've actually archived the entire DM that led to that video. And let's just look at the start of this video. It doesn't look good with Damon Arnette. And we'll actually play it when it's actually in context. But let's just go through the actual back and forth that was had when Damon Arnette sent this guy this video, which, by the way, was dropped 10 months later. Who knows how, when, what, whatever. But it was dropped 10 months later. Perhaps at the start of the next season, whatever. It was November 3rd. So it was, a couple months after he was hurt, whatever, when he was about to come back. So maybe he gets hurt, then he's about to come back, and this guy kind of tries to do it. But here is the entire back and forth between Damon Arnette and this guy. And I actually always stood up for Arnette on this one. And this is when stuff kind of spiraled. So this was at 12:27 a.m. So this was at midnight. This is DM guy. We'll call the guy who DM'd him, we'll call him DM guy. DM guy slides in Arnette's DMs and he says, N-word, you suck. Follows it up with, only reason you got on team is because they suck. And then he put a dead emoji. So that was at 12:27. 154, Damon Arnette replies, and he says, LOL, I bet you die before me, broke ass N-bomb. DM guy immediately responds, and he says, you mad at me because you suck, with a laughing emoji. And then I guess Arnette didn't reply, so the DM guy said, yeah, get quiet. So basically telling him, get quiet, blah, blah, blah. So that's at 1:54 p.m. the next day. It wasn't even 1:54 a.m., excuse me. It was 1:54 the next day. So 12:27, this dude slides into his DMs. 1:54, Arnette replies with, you're broke, blah, blah, blah. And then the guy says, yeah, get quiet. 2:58. So this was an hour and 4 minutes after that. Damon Arnette says, you hit my DM. You are blank with a G, 3 letters. You mad, LMAO. Then he says, you like me or something. You're a weird ass blank. Do you know me? Question mark. You're lame. Your lame ass don't get none. DM guy replied, and this is kind of funny. This is DM guy. So DM guy slides in his DMs, and then DM guy says this: block me or I'm forever going to spam your bitch ass. So he's basically saying, I'm going to harass you or you're going to have to get rid of me. That is literally what the DM guy says to him. He says, block me or I'm forever going to spam your bitch ass. That's a quote. Damon Arnette says, what type of blank is you? DM guy says, this is where it gets even funnier. And remember, this is what the video came from. This is what DM guy says, the guy who slid in his DMs. You ain't even like that. Why act like that? Arnette says, you get no ass, you're broke, and you're blank. DM guy says, probably still, but you're a P word. Damon Arnette sent a laughing emoji. And then the DM guy said this. So this is the DM guy saying this. The guy who sent the direct message. Drop your address and stop talking bleep. That's a direct quote from the DM guy. Drop your address and stop talking blank. When he literally started this whole thing and then said he was going to harass him. Damon Arnette dropped the address right there. Then the DM guy said, that bleep is 5 minutes away. This is a quote. That bleep is 5 minutes away. Stay woke, youngin'. And then Damon Arnette says, pull up right now. And then this is the video. This is context to the video.
5 minutes away. Pull up, lame ass. I swear to God, I will kill you on everything I love. I will.
So there you go. So it's not like he's just sending this to some Raiders fan who says he sucks at football. This is a guy who said, drop your address, stop talking blank. You're not about that. So that's where the video goes. And he says, pull up right now. Then DM guy says, OFC, we fixing to box this bleep out on Hood. DA sends another video, one of the other videos we saw. And then he says, he kind of backs off. He goes, oh, you want a box? Bet that. Pull up blank. DM guy then says, you showing guns, and I said box. That defines everything. Now, you didn't say box before. You said quit talking blank. You said you weren't about that. You said drop the address. You said I'm going to be there in 5 minutes. You never started off with saying I'm going to show up and box you. Damon Arnette emphasizes that, and he says, quote, you said box after you sent that bleep, ho-ass bleep. We can box. I'm in whatever you're on. So he said that. Then Damon Arnette said, you got the drop. You on the way? Or are you going to keep hiding behind the phone? You drop a pin. Now he says, now you drop a pin, I'll pull up. DM guy says, what? This is where it gets even funnier. DM guy says, quote, what I look like sliding in the daytime, so your lame ass can call the ops. You asked him to drop the address, brother. So you asked him to drop the address, and then you're talking about him calling the ops? Kind of weird. This is all childish all the way around, but it kind of adds context to what happened. Then Arnette says, you're a bitch, blank, talking about calling the cops. Let me pull up on you, blank. Now you're scared. Get out of my DMs. You a beep. You're scared. DM guy says, rep yo set. Okay. Then Arnette says, you said it's 5 minutes away. I'll be there in 10. You got me ready to drop you. Now you're backtracking and going about your day. He said, you're a mark. Arnette did, laughing emoji. Get the F out of my DMs. You ain't about nothing. And DM guy finished it with this. I've been learning from you how to be a garbage ass DB. So that kind of adds a little bit of context to what the video was. I'm not saying it was right. And Damon Arnette himself will admit that maybe it was a blessing from God because he wasn't living right. But that adds a little bit of context to what that video was. Guy slides in the DMs, asks him to give him his address. He gives the address, and then he gets a little bit fired up. It's a little bit different than what was thrown out there. And then Damon Arnette, as a result of this, he ends up losing his job, and there's a complete downward spiral. I mean, he lost it all, and he started embracing it, and it was a complete downward spiral. Again, maybe a blessing from God, as Arnette says it, but it's a little bit different than him just randomly saying stuff like this, like that's crazy. So, yeah, he did get baited, but it wasn't like I actually defend him on this. I think more people who talk the way that they do on the internet, I think more of them should catch fades, honestly, or at least hands or something like that, because I think it's ridiculous. Even what we saw with McClain. So I'm not defending it. I'm just giving some context to that, and he screwed himself. Probably shouldn't have those DMs open. Not the smartest thing for Damon Arnette. And then he gets dropped 10 months later, and there we go. Not great for Damon Arnette. I don't know if he makes this team. I do find a lot of things interesting about this signing. These are not your grandpa's Texans. But I'm fine with giving him a chance. Like, most of the stuff that he's done has been kind of self-inflicted. And quite frankly, they need corners. And I have no problem with it. I don't know whether he's matured or not. My guy says he has, but we'll see. But I do have 5 extra thoughts on this before we get into a interesting Cody Stoots theory here in the locker room. Five extra thoughts on this Arnette thing. And let me know, what do y'all think of the DM now? I mean, he definitely got baited. But you're asking a guy to drop an address? What does that mean? I'm going to show up and box a guy because you think he sucks at football? Not a great look. NFL players shouldn't be street fighting. Yeah, it shouldn't be street fighting. It shouldn't be flashing guns. That's for sure. Shouldn't have his DMs open, if we're being honest. NFL players shouldn't have their DMs open. But I got 5 thoughts on this Damon Arnette thing. Number 1, when it comes to Damon Arnette, and these are some things that perhaps aren't getting talked about as much. Cal and Hannah don't meddle. I don't want to speak for them, I don't think this would be something that they would 100% pound the table for. But they let DeMeco and they let Nick Caserio make decisions, football decisions. Cal and Hannah, let them handle that. Now, if there ever comes a time where they need to step in, I think they'll be more than willing, but they don't meddle. That's just not really their nature, and that's not really what they do. So Bob McNair would not have allowed this to happen. John McClain was right. He was right. We all knew that. That's not new news. But Cal and Hannah do allow it to go down. And I'm okay with that. I kind of support that. I think that's one of the better things about Cal and Hannah. Just stay out of the way and then get in your convertible and go wave your hands when the Texans are getting blown out by the Ravens to Beyonce, so that 95% of the country can say, who is that in the convertible? And the other 5% here in Houston can say, oh, that's Cal and Hannah. But they don't meddle. Thought number 2. The timing is kind of interesting. We do kind of got to admit this, because we always hear DeMeco and we always hear Caserio talk about, and I always kind of roll my eyes at it, but we want good players and we want good people. We want good people. We want good guys. We want guys who blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And then you have Jimmy Ward, DeMeco's guy. I didn't make this up. You go type in Jimmy Ward, Landry Locker. The day that Jimmy Ward was signed, we were talking about he was a DeMeco guy. And DeMeco has always said good things about him. But a week or so after Jimmy Ward has his incident, now you're signing Damon Arnette. I think it's interesting. I think the timing is interesting. The Texans, like if you look at the Texans in the news the last week, outside of the TJ Stroud shoulder, it's been Jimmy Ward, off-field dispute, and the Texans signed Damon Arnette. And all of a sudden people see that video. They don't have the full context that we just gave for the video. So I do find it interesting. Do I find it like appalling or something? No, but I do find it very interesting. Number 3, thought number 3 that you may not be talking about. The Ohio State University bust tradition continues. Last year it was Jeff Okudah. Jeff Okudah arrives in Houston, 3rd team. You're kind of hoping he can replace Steven Nelson. Best case scenario, he can't hold Steven Nelson's jock. Let's be serious. And he ends up being kind of a flop, kind of a dud. He was a teammate of Damon Arnette at Ohio State. They were both drafted in the first round of the 2020 draft. Last year, the Texans took Okudah. This year, they go with Damon Arnette. So the tradition of trying to get corner depth in the form of Ohio State first-round busts, and it's not harsh to call these guys busts, it continues around here. Thought number 4. Is this at least a toe tap for a bigger name in the future? So before the Arnette signing, we probably wouldn't have thought that this would have ever happened. But because the Texans were willing to do this, again, I'm not sitting here saying it's a bad thing, but because they were willing to do this, does this mean if there's like a bigger name on the market that they'll be willing to do that as well? I think the answer is probably yes. Because if they're willing to do this for a maybe 3rd corner, and we don't even know if Arnette is going to make the team, if they're willing to do this for Damon Arnette, maybe they'd be willing to roll the dice on a bigger name a little bit later on. So that's thought 4. Thought 5. I do really wonder, and this is probably the question that I will ask DeMeco Ryans at camp, and I hope he's prepared to answer it, but I do wonder, when you say, and I've heard nothing but good things about Damon Arnette from people I know and who I trust, as far as like the revival. Shout out to Jean-Jacques Taylor. And I know he's friends with Damon Arnette's uncle, who, by the way, is a cardiologist. But is DeMeco gonna say that he thinks that this is a good guy, a good person? Because that's kind of the messaging that they've put out there. I kind of roll my eyes when they do it because I don't think it's necessary. But he has said it. We want to bring in good people. So I would like to hear DeMeco Ryans kind of speak to the character, because he and Caserio have always talked about how important that is. And I would like to hear what they got to say about it. Those are 5 random thoughts about the Damon Arnette signing. So we'll see how that whole thing goes and what goes down for sure. Another interesting fact about Damon Arnette. So Jacques told me that after he did the interview with Arnette, he actually sent it to former Dallas Cowboy Moose Johnston, Gerrod Johnson, who oversees things in the UFL and the XFL. And he basically told him, hey, I asked the questions that y'all would probably want to ask. I know his uncle. This is what he told me. And apparently Daryl looked at the video, and then they allowed Damon Arnette into the league. And that had a decent role in him getting the gig. Now, some of you may say, well, why would the UFL or XFL care about character? They can't afford bad publicity. So it might actually be harder to get into that league than any other league. But apparently Moose looked at that, and that had a role in them letting him in the league. So Gerrod Johnson, Moose, fullback, the old neck roll, number 48. I think he made a couple Pro Bowls, won a few Super Bowls. He kind of had a hand in this thing. Another interesting fact about Damon Arnette is, that he went to the same high school as the Bosas? He comes from a good family. From what I hear, that interview and everything else, like his uncle's a cardiologist. Michael Irvin, I think, basically was on scholarship at that high school. He went there. But Damon Arnette, I know this might surprise a lot of you people. I do mean you people, all of you. Race car! Damon Arnette went to the same high school as the Bosa brothers. How about that? Bet you didn't know that. So there's always like I think that the more success he had, there was perhaps a little bit of a change in his personality. And we've seen that happen in a number of ways. We've seen guys had success and all of a sudden they change, and the people from their hometown don't even recognize them anymore. But David Arnette went to the same high school as the Bosas. Just an interesting fact, I thought, for sure. And I know him and Nick actually were preseason All-Americans at Ohio State and went to the same high school. So, yeah, interesting. I don't know that he's Carlton Banks. I don't know about all that. You're saying stuff. I don't know about all that. I don't think Carlton Banks was ever flashing guns, man. So I wouldn't say all that. Just not. It's not like some sort of like. It's not Pac-Man Jones, Pac-Man Jones. It's a little bit different upbringing. He didn't have the Pac-Man Jones upbringing. We'll put it that way. But yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with the signing. I think the signing is fine. No problem with it. Roll the dice. Make it happen. Let's see what goes. So Cody Stoots had an interesting theory, and this was actually kind of co-signed by someone that covers the Tennessee Titans, relatively closely. It's not John McClain, you smartasses. But I was talking about Nick Caley, and I was talking about the Tennessee Titans, and I was saying that they're probably going to be looking for a new head coach sooner rather than later. I think Callahan sucks. I think that was a dumb hire. I think there's a reason that Amy Adams strunk, whatever you want to call her, strunk. I think there's a reason that she's sitting in the background right now because she needs to stay out of the way. But I think eventually they're going to be looking for a new coach. Could be next year, could be the year after. I also don't think Cam Ward's that good. I think people are trying to talk themselves into it, and it's just kind of cute that it's going down like that. Like the kid. Just as far as being a franchise quarterback, don't see it. But we were talking about Nick Caley and Amy Adams Strunk's desire to take people from Houston when maybe it's a little bit earlier for that role than perhaps you would think that they're ready for that. They're ready to perform in that role. She did it with Mike Vrabel. Worked out great. She ended up getting in her own way, but it worked out great. He was a position coach with the Texans for a few years. The stanky one, the daughter of Mr. Adams. She brings in Mike Vrabel. He does a great job. They get to the AFC Championship game. They win the division. They revive Ryan Tannehill, and it works out. She's bringing in someone from the Texans PR staff, and he's going to oversee the PR. Can't help but think that maybe kind of sticking it to the Texans felt pretty decent for her. So naturally with Nick Caley, if Nick Caley has a lot of success with the Texans, he's going to be gone. That's what you sign up for when it comes to having a defensive-minded head coach. If the offensive coordinator is good, then he's gone, and you have to shuffle. That was the biggest. This isn't new. This isn't created. This isn't just for discussion. This is what we talked about when DeMeco was signed, and I wanted DeMeco or bust for me. I think it's a fine battle to take on, but it's a realistic battle, and it is the substantive counterpoint from people who didn't want to sign a defensive-minded head coach. And you hear that all the time. We don't want a defensive guy, we want an offensive guy. You hear that all the time. It's not new. So if Nick Caley is good, let's say he's good. Let's say he has a Bobby Slowick first year. And then let's say that he's about as hot of a commodity as Bobby Slowick was after year one. And let's say Callahan sucks with the Tennessee Titans. Do you think the resentful strunk, whatever you want to call her, do you think that she might consider bringing in Nick Caley? I think it's possible. What if he has a good second year? And they roll with Callahan another year. And he's one of the hottest commodities in the league. Let's say they have the number one pick in the draft. Let's say the Titans have the number one pick in the draft and Cam Ward sucks. Let's say Arch Manning. Because I don't think he's leaving after 1 year. Let's say Arch Manning in 2 years. They have the number one pick and they get rid of their coach. She's going to try to hire Nick Caley, right? It's inevitable. It's kind of the life you live, though. If Nick Caley's good, he's going to be gone. And you got to keep an eye on the stanky one. I thought that was a good theory by Cody Stoots. Wasn't dismissed. A lot of people around the table kind of agree with it. I think it's good. I think it's really, really good. It's a good theory by Cody Stoots. 100%. Chase talking about the Damon Arnette thing says, I see a man exercising his Second Amendment right. I mean, you do got to admit that when you get the full context of the discussion, it does look a little bit different. Now, the way that Arnette was living, it probably there would have probably been some form of that type of encounter to happen. But it does look a little bit different in that instance. There's no doubt. And it's not even about staying off the net. Space Age says stayed off the net. No, I just had to close the DMs, man. On X, you just close the DMs. No one can DM you. I remember when I said that Joe Flacco was better than Zach Wilson, man. I got more DMs. Jets fans like to slide in DMs. It's weird. But I got probably 300 DMs from Jets fans. Most of them logos, just talking hella crazy. The Damon Arnette style. I had to turn off my DMs. It was a little bit weird. I didn't even decide to go back and like even revisit it because it was just so pathetic. But all I said was Joe Flacco was better than Zach Wilson. I got killed. A lot of those tweets, I did go back and look. They were kind of deleted. But some guys, like if you're a grown ass man, you're sliding in another grown ass man's DMs. I got questions about you. It's all crap. What are we doing? Like Mike Tyson and Brock Lesnar wouldn't do that. It's not even about like being a hardo or anything like that. And again, for me, for the most part, it's always boomers. The dude at Wendy's and some of the people that used to talk crazy when I'd host with Lopez, that just like old dudes no matter what the substance is. But they want to sit there and be like extra nice. That's fine, man. But some of the way that folks talk online to other people is crazy. It's weird, honestly. Cebu says Gerrod would get a look as the next OC. I bet. What? Why? Like I know that that's like the natural thing, but why? Like why would they trust him to be that guy? I'm just asking. And I like Gerrod. I think he's a great dude. I think he's a very well-rounded guy. He got elevated very highly as a head coach. CJ cuts for him, almost like he does Shaq Mason. But I just think it's interesting because my thing would be, how would that make you feel when it comes to that? Because I'm always going to objectively cover the squad, regardless of whether I know guys or not. It's a professional relationship. My question would be, if they passed him over for the OC gig last year and then they switched to a new system, why would you? This is going to be his first year in this system, I think, depending on what it looks like. Why would you then go to him as opposed to someone in the pipeline? I mean, there's some guys that are just good quarterback coaches and they're not good coordinators. So yeah, I'm sure that there would be some sort of look. My question is, do you think that's the right look or not? I don't know. I don't know how anyone does, unless you're just like a fan of his. Hard not to be. Or you just think the relationship between the quarterback and the QB coach is important. But they went outside the building and they went outside the system. So if he didn't get it before, why go with it now? That would be a question I would have by then. Andrew says Gerrod should be ready by then. 2 OCs later in the same QB. What? How do you know? What makes you think that? It's just completely different. I don't know. You say so. Okay. I'm not gonna. I'm skeptical. I'm not dismissive. I'm just kind of skeptical. I don't know what that would be based on. When it comes to that, don't get it. Jacob Hyatt, he's going Scott Hall. Hey yo, how you doing? I don't think Gerrod is helping Caley develop his system. I think Caley has a very good idea of what his system is. I know CJ likes Gerrod. I don't know if he's going to be a good OC. We'll see. I don't know. He does everything well. He sings. He plays football. He makes clothes. He's good quarterback coach. Fast riser. I don't know. See, I called her by her government, and now y'all are calling her stank. I'm a bad influence. Sideline Sarah. I've always thought Amy Stank wanted to hit the Texans where it hurts. Hire Gerrod. He knows CJ best. Yeah, maybe I could see Gerrod being a better head coach than OC. And that's the same thing that happened with Vrabel. I think that's an interesting theory. Like I think Gerrod's a leader of men. I think he's a great dude. I actually think that like Mike Vrabel's not a defensive coordinator. He was never a defensive coordinator when they hired him in Tennessee. So if you told me you're going to hire, like I would believe in Gerrod more as a head coach than an OC, if that makes sense. I don't think you have to be a good OC to be a good head coach. I don't think there's like any like clear path to being a coach. John Harbaugh was a special teams coach. I don't think there's like a clear path. We always look at this as a natural path, and more times than not, that's what happens. It's a position coach. It's quality control position. You're overseeing one of the phases, and then you become a coach. But Mike Vrabel wasn't a DC. So I could see Gerrod going out there and doing his thing in that manner. It would actually make more sense as opposed to the OC. I don't know what makes him a good OC. There's no like set experience when it comes to this. I heard like the word in, what was it, 2020? It was qualified. Who's qualified? Who's more qualified? Who's less qualified? Who's blah. You don't know what's qualified. There's no clear path for a head coach. That doesn't exist. And that was usually people who weren't really football fans, just yapping. But yeah, I would rather see, like, if I were hiring Gerrod, I think head coach makes more sense than OC. Is that an insult? No. Not at all. I think it's a completely different thing. We see a lot of coaches who are really good coordinators that were shitty head coaches. I don't think Gerrod would be that. I think Gerrod's an overseer. I don't think Gerrod should ever be an OC. I think Gerrod should be the quarterback coach, and then as soon as someone wants to hire him as a head coach, then it's some sort of surprise hire. Maybe he'll go be an OC. He's interviewed for it a couple times, but I think he's more equipped for that. I don't think there's like some sort of knock on being a QB coach and then HC. Jacob Hyatt on the soup, aka Scott Hall.
Hey yo.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
He says, I like Gerrod, but CJ, I think, could have benefited from a different QB coach this year. He needs a different voice in the room. Thank you for the show. Yeah. This has been my question the whole time when we've been talking about this. And again, I know Gerrod. Like, I don't know him as well as like my old co-host does, but I respect the guy as a man. I think he's the perfect guy. And I think obviously CJ has a lot. I've never heard anyone say anything bad about him, but if we're objectively talking about this team, I don't know how you can tell me that the offensive line coach last year sucked, which he did, and then tell me that Gerrod Johnson did a good job with what we saw from CJ. So that's my whole thing. I don't know how we can say he did a good job. Now, CJ obviously has comfort with him, and that's good. And they've obviously been willing to make CJ uncomfortable. And sometimes when you make players uncomfortable, it might be a difficult thing to do, but eventually you get better results. See Lamar Jackson and them completely changing the offense, the Greg Roman offense. Like you see it a lot where teams make that change. But I don't know what him being a good QB coach is based on. Maybe it's based on CJ liking him. I don't know. But that, like, it's kind of weird the way that some people talk about it. It's like, well, Bobby Slowick sucked. Chris Strausser sucked. Gerrod Johnson, make him the OC. Why? Like, help me. Help me. Why? Because I don't disagree with the previous two statements. But what are we doing there? I think it's fair to ask. It's relatively strange. I know there was like a piece. There was someone asking about Gerrod the other day. And there's been like all this talk about Gerrod. Yeah, he's done a great job, but has he? What's it been based on? It's a fair question. How is it not a fair question? It's what it is. But he had.
Damn it, Bobby.
The other, like, it's kind of like Juice Scruggs. It's kind of like Juice Scruggs. You look at it. Juice Scruggs right now is third string. Last year, we were pointing at Shaq Mason. We were pointing at Titus Howard. A lot of people pointing at Laramie Tunsil. And now all of a sudden, Juice Scruggs is front and center. We were pointing at the offensive line coach. We were pointing at the offensive coordinator. We didn't say a damn thing about the QB coach. I did. But we, kind of got to generalize. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. Be sure to write along. Let me know what you think about Damon Arnette. Do you like the signing or not? I'm fine with it. It's definitely a new age. I do think we provided some context with the text exchange and everything that went down there. And John McClain, lay off John McClain. Nothing John McClain said wasn't true. Bob McNair would not have allowed this, and the Texans have definitely changed their standards. So lay off my boy. Peace out.
Takeaways, if it's up, then it's up. We number one. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.